The following day, Kojo woke up to a strange stillness. The morning sun filtered through the cracks in the hut, casting long shadows on the walls. The golden calabash sat on the table, its intricate carvings gleaming faintly in the light. Despite the quiet, Kojo felt uneasy. The whispers from the night before lingered in his mind, their echoes urging him toward a decision he wasn't ready to make. Adwa noticed her son's troubled demeanor. She approached him as he prepared to leave for the farm. "Kojo, you look restless. Did the calabash trouble you again last night?" Kojo hesitated, then nodded. "The whispers are growing stronger, mother. I don't know how much longer I can resist." Adwa placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Remember what Nana Obiri said. The calabash is a test, Kojo. You must be strong." He forced a smile, trying to reassure her, but the truth was, he felt as though he was teetering on the edge of a cliff. One wrong step and he would fall, taking everything they had built with him. As Kojo walked in the fields that day, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. His neighbors passed by, their greetings polite but their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. Whispers of Kojo's sudden fortune had spread throughout the village, and although he had told everyone it was an inheritance, not everyone believed him. "Have you heard?" one villager said to another as they passed by Kojo's farm. "They say he found something in the forest. A treasure or a charm. How else could he have become so rich so quickly?" "If it's true," the other replied, "I hope he's careful. Such things come at a price." Kojo pretended not to hear them, but their words stung. The calabash had brought him wealth and comfort, but it had also made him an object of envy and speculation. He felt isolated, even among his own people. That evening, as dark clouds gathered in the sky, Kojo sat alone in his hut. Adwa had gone to visit a neighbor, leaving him with his thoughts and the ever-present calabash. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the air grew heavy with the scent of rain. The whispers began again, soft and seductive. "Kojo, why do you deny yourself? You have the power to change everything. Open the calabash and see. The elder doesn't understand. Only you can unlock its true potential." Kojo clenched his fist, trying to block out the voices. But the more he resisted, the louder they became, until they were all he could hear. His heart pounded in his chest, and his hands trembled as he stared at the calabash. "Just one look," the whispers urged. "You have come this far. Why stop now?" Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room for a brief moment. The carvings on the calabash seemed to shimmer and shift, as though the object itself was alive. Kojo's curiosity burned brighter than ever, fueled by the whispers and his own doubts. As the storm raged outside, Adwa returned home, drenched from the rain. She found Kojo sitting at the table, his eyes fixed on the calabash. Alarmed, she rushed to his side. "Kojo, what are you doing?" she cried. "You must not give in." He looked up at her, his face a mask of torment. "Mother, I can't take it anymore. The whispers won't stop. What if the elder is wrong? What if the calabash holds the answers we need?" Adwa grabbed his hands, forcing him to look at her. "Kojo, listen to me. No good can come from breaking the rule. The calabash has already blessed us beyond measure. Do not let your curiosity destroy everything." Her words pierced through his haze of desperation, and for a moment, Kojo felt a flicker of clarity. But the whispers were relentless, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. "Go to bed," Adwa urged. "Rest, and let the storm pass. Tomorrow will bring clarity." Reluctantly, Kojo obeyed. But as he lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, he knew the battle was far from over. The calabash had taken root in his mind, and its pull was stronger than ever. The storm continued through the night, its fury mirroring the turmoil within Kojo. He tossed and turned, unable to find peace. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until they were all he could hear. Finally, just before dawn, Kojo made a decision. He rose from his bed, his movements slow and deliberate, as though he were in a trance. The calabash sat on the table, its carvings glowing faintly in the dim light. "One look," he whispered to himself. "Just one look, and then I will put it away forever." He reached out, his fingers trembling as they touched the calabash. The surface was warm, almost alive, and the carvings seemed to shift under his touch. Kojo hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest. "Kojo, stop." Adua's voice startled him, and he turned to see her standing in the doorway, her face pale with fear. "Do not do this, my son. You will regret it for the rest of your life." Tears filled Kojo's eyes as he looked at her. "I have to know, mother. I cannot live with this torment any longer." Adua took a step toward him, but before she could reach him, Kojo lifted the lid of the calabash. The moment Kojo lifted the lid of the calabash, time seemed to freeze. A burst of golden light exploded from within, illuminating every corner of the humble hut. Adua screamed, shielding her eyes from the brilliance. Kojo stood frozen. His face bathed in the radiant glow, unable to look away. His heart pounded as he stared into the swirling light, which seemed alive, pulsating with a power far beyond his comprehension. The air in the room grew heavy, vibrating with an otherworldly hum. The carvings on the calabash glowed brighter, the intricate patterns shifting and twisting as though they were alive. Kojo's hand trembled, and for a moment, he thought of slamming the lid shut. But his curiosity held him in place, a force stronger than fear. From the depths of the calabash, a voice emerged, deep, resonant, and filled with authority. "You have broken the sacred rule." Kojo's knees buckled, and he fell to the floor, the lid slipping from his hands. The golden light dimmed slightly, revealing a swirling vortex of shadows and fire within the calabash. Adua rushed to his side, pulling him back as the voice continued. "You were warned, yet you allowed greed and curiosity to consume you. Now, you must face the consequences." Before Kojo could respond, the light inside the calabash turned dark, shifting into deep, ominous shades of red and black. Shadows poured out, taking on monstrous forms that filled the room. Serpents with glowing eyes slithered across the floor, their hisses echoing like thunder. Winged beasts with talons sharp as blades hovered in the air, their screeches piercing the night. Adua clung to her son, tears streaming down her face. "Kojo, what have you done?" she cried. "Close it. Close it now." But Kojo was paralyzed with fear, his eyes locked on the terrifying creatures emerging from the calabash. The voice spoke again, cold and unforgiving. "For your disobedience, the blessings you have received shall be undone. What was given will now be taken, and you shall know the price of greed." The creatures surged toward Kojo, their eyes glowing with malice. One by one, they began to strip away everything the calabash had given. The golden coins that had once filled their home turned to dust, scattering into the air. The walls of their newly built house crumbled, reverting to the shabby mud structure it once was. The food, the livestock, the wealth, all vanished as though they had never existed. Kojo fell to his knees, his voice breaking as he begged for forgiveness. "Please, I was wrong. I didn't mean to disobey. Spare us, I beg you." Adua joined him, her voice trembling. "We have learned our lesson. Please, show mercy on my son." For a moment, the room was silent. The shadows paused, their forms flickering as though considering the plea. The voice spoke again, but this time, it carried a tone of finality. "Mercy cannot undo what has been done. But a lesson must be learned. You shall live, but you will start anew, with nothing." With that, the shadows began to retreat, spiraling back into the calabash. The carvings on its surface dulled, and the light faded, leaving the room in darkness. Kojo and Adwa sat in silence, their hearts heavy with despair. The calabash, now lifeless and ordinary, lay on the floor, a hollow reminder of their loss. The next morning, the sun rose over the village, its warm light a stark contrast to the devastation inside Kojo's home. The villagers, drawn by the commotion of the previous night, gathered outside. They found Kojo and Adwa sitting in the dirt, their faces pale and hollow. What happened here? One of the elders asked, his voice filled with concern. Kojo looked up, his eyes filled with shame. The calabash, he whispered. It was a gift, but I broke the rule. Everything it gave us has been taken away. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances, their suspicions confirmed. Some shook their heads in disapproval, while others looked on with pity. Greed is a dangerous thing, one man muttered. The gods do not give without expecting respect and gratitude. Despite their judgment, a few kind-hearted neighbors offered food and assistance. Adwa accepted their help gratefully, but Kojo refused, determined to rebuild with his own hands. In the days that followed, Kojo worked tirelessly to restore their farm. He replanted the fields, using the little they had left to start anew. Adwa supported him, her strength and wisdom guiding them through the hardships. Though the work was grueling, Kojo found solace in the simplicity of their old life. The calabash remained in the corner of their hut, untouched and silent. Its once golden glow was gone, replaced by a dull, lifeless surface. It served as a constant reminder of the price of greed and the importance of gratitude. Kojo often reflected on his actions, sharing his story with anyone willing to listen. The calabash gave me everything I wanted, he would say, but it also showed me that wanting more than you need can lead to ruin. Adwa nodded in agreement, her voice firm yet gentle. The gods test us in ways we cannot always understand. It is up to us to prove our worth through humility and gratitude. As time passed, Kojo and Adwa regained the respect of their community. The villagers saw their determination and resilience and came to admire their strength. Kojo's story became a cautionary tale, passed down through generations as a reminder of the dangers of greed and the value of living within one's means. Though life was hard, Kojo found peace in his work and the knowledge that he had learned a valuable lesson. He no longer prayed for riches but for the wisdom to appreciate what he had. The calabash remained in its corner, a silent witness to his journey. In the months following the calamity of the golden calabash, Kojo and Adwa began to rebuild their lives from the remnants of their previous existence. Their home, once grand and filled with riches, was now a modest mud hut again, but it was one they could call their own. The golden calabash, now a dull and lifeless object, sat in the corner of the hut, untouched and unmoving. Kojo would often sit by the small fire outside their home in the evenings, the light of the flames dancing across his weary face. He had grown quieter, more thoughtful, as he reflected on the mistakes that had led to their downfall. Each time he glanced at the calabash, he was reminded of the choices he made and the price he paid. Adwa, ever the wise mother, encouraged him to find solace in the lessons he had learned. "My son," she would say, her voice steady and full of warmth, "what matters now is how you choose to live. The past cannot be changed, but the future is yours to shape." Kojo nodded, her words giving him strength. It was then he decided to share the story of the golden calabash with the village, hoping his mistakes would serve as a warning to others. He began to speak at the village gatherings, recounting his journey with unflinching honesty. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the villagers gathered in the central square. Word had spread that Kojo had a story to tell, one that held a lesson for everyone. People of all ages came, from curious children to wise elders, eager to hear his tale. Kojo stood in the center, his figure silhouetted against the warm glow of the fire. He began slowly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Once, I was a man who prayed every night for a miracle. I worked hard on my farm, but it was never enough. When I found the golden calabash, I thought my prayers had been answered. It gave me everything I wanted and more." The villagers leaned in closer, captivated by his words. Kojo's voice grew heavier as he recounted the blessings the calabash bestowed, the gold, the food, the transformation of his home. But then, his tone darkened. "I was warned," he continued. "The calabash had one rule: take only what you need and never look inside. But I let greed take hold of me. I ignored the warning, thinking I could take more without consequence. I was wrong. As Kojo spoke of the moment he opened the calabash, the crowd shuddered. He described the blinding light, the monstrous shadows, and the booming voice that condemned him for his disobedience. The villagers' faces reflected a mix of fear and sorrow as they imagined the scene. Everything it gave me was taken away. Kojo said, his voice breaking slightly. My wealth, my home, my farm, all gone. I was left with nothing but the lesson the gods wanted me to learn: greed destroys, and gratitude sustains. A hush fell over the crowd as his words sank in. Adwa, who sat among the villagers, nodded solemnly. Her presence lent weight to Kojo's story, for she too had lived through the tragedy and seen its consequences firsthand. When Kojo finished, an elder rose to speak. His voice, though soft, carried the wisdom of many years. Kojo, he began, your story is one that must not be forgotten. It reminds us all that the blessings we receive come with responsibilities. Greed blinds us to the gifts we already have. And when we lose sight of gratitude, we invite ruin into our lives. The villagers murmured in agreement, their faces solemn. One by one, others began to share their own thoughts and experiences, drawing parallels to Kojo's tale. Some spoke of their struggles with envy, while others reflected on the importance of humility and gratitude in their lives. For hours, the village square buzzed with conversation, each person finding their own lesson in Kojo's story. It became clear that the tale of the golden calabash was not just about Kojo's mistakes, but a reflection of the challenges they all faced as human beings. Kojo's willingness to share his story transformed him in the eyes of the village. Where once he was seen as a man consumed by greed, he was now regarded as a teacher, a man who had faced his flaws and emerged wiser. In the weeks that followed, Kojo dedicated himself to helping others. He offered to teach the younger villagers how to farm and shared tips on making the most of their limited resources. Adwa, ever the guiding force in his life, joined him, sharing her knowledge and wisdom. The golden calabash remained in their heart, a relic of the past. Kojo no longer feared or revered it but accepted it as a reminder of the lessons he had learned. When children asked about it, he would show them the once glowing artifact and recount its story, ensuring the cautionary tale lived on. Over time, the tale of the golden calabash became a legend in the village. It was told around fires, passed down from one generation to the next. Each storyteller added their own flair, but the core message remained the same: greed and ingratitude lead to ruin, while humility and gratitude paved the way to a fulfilling life. Kojo's life, though marked by hardship, became a beacon of hope and resilience. He showed that even after great loss, it was possible to rebuild and find peace. The villagers often spoke of his courage and honesty, and his name became synonymous with wisdom and humility. As the years went by, Kojo and Adwa continued to live simply but happily. Their farm flourished under their care, providing enough for their needs. They found joy in the small moments, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children, and the sense of community that surrounded them. And so, the story of the golden calabash became more than a tale of caution. It became a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of gratitude to overcome even the greatest challenges.